all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice,
so I think
hustle paid the price.
for me,
Want a
if I had
slice,
to
got to roll the dice, that's why.
say what my biggest regret in life would be, it wouldn't be, not taking a chance, or, a lot of times you hear people talking, they say, man, my greatest regret in life is not doing this or doing that. But I think for me, my biggest regret in life is not believing in me soon enough, right? The whole premises of my company, iamdemorrious, right, is to empower people to know who they are. It is to empower people, to let them know that no matter, what other people may think, no matter what may, be said about them, no matter, how intelligent they may be, no matter how, what family they come from, right? But, you can believe, right? Like when you believe in you, that's one of the most powerful things in the world, right? Like believing in yourself gives you a superpower. And so for me, I think that would be my biggest regret. My biggest regret would be not believing in myself soon enough. Tell you a quick story. One of the things, or one of the individuals that really helped me to, capitalize on my belief in myself was my fifth grade teacher, believe it or not. It was something about that fifth grade class, right, Miss Garner's class. In that class, it was like I was one of a few minorities. But it was almost like she saw something, and because of what she saw in me, our interactions were different, right? Like you're at that age where kids shouldn't really like their teachers. You should be a little, pain in the butt, right? But it was something about her that would tell me that I was intelligent, right? That would tell me I can do it. And I think that's when that fire was lit. And that's the thing that really made me start believing in myself. And to this day, as long as there's breath in my body, man, I'll always salute her. I'll always honor her because she literally changed my life.
How'd you get through the hardships that happened to you? How'd you, pretty much, how did you, God, I'm trying to think. Yeah, pretty much, how did you get through those hardships? What'd you do to bounce back from them, pretty much?
Cool. So, one of the things I learned about life, right? It was funny. I was walking through the alley on the way to the studio to do this interview, and for some odd reason, that line out of Forrest Gump popped up in my head. It was the one where he said, "Life is like a box of chocolates," right? Like you never know what you're going to get. That is true, right? To a degree. Life, it happens, right? It happens to the best of us, and how you respond to it, I think that's the most powerful, that's the most important part, right? How are you going to respond to being knocked down? How are you going to respond to adversity, right? I've seen so many people growing up that literally had a belief, where they didn't think that they could overcome things. You come up in the projects, and you hear people talk all the time about we shouldn't make it out, or we shouldn't be able to do this, or we shouldn't be able to do that. And what ends up happening is almost like every time they say that, it's like you're putting another garment on, right? Like you're putting another coat on. You're putting another coat on, and then eventually you put that negativity on so much that it's almost like it paralyzes you. It puts you in a position where you can't move. And one of the things that I've always did whenever I went through adversity was I've always tried to maintain my positivity, right? I've always believed that no matter how difficult a situation is, grace found me in the middle of it, right? Like my grandmother would always say, no matter how bad it is, it could be worse, right? So I always applied that principle or that concept to my life. And so when I was going through those adversities, I would take a moment and be like, man, I'm thankful that this is the situation, right? Because it could be worse. And if it was worse, then it would be a whole nother story. And so I think that allowed me to set the framework of my mind to begin to attack those situations and begin to overcome those things, simply because I started out in a place of positivity, right? And then after just really being positive, the second thing I would say is just putting yourself around other people, and that kind of goes back to the first part of it. But making sure you're around people who have your best intentions at heart, right? Like, you got to have people that when you do begin to doubt in yourself, they're like, nah, you're better than that. Like you're an overcomer. You're built for this, right? And when you begin to think like that, you put yourself around that, you slowly begin to crawl your way out of whatever it is. So for me, I would just encourage people to say, listen, make sure no matter how difficult or how bleak it may look, make sure that you remain positive. You're going to have a moment where you're going to be upset, you're going to be down and out, want to throw in the towel, but you can't stay there long. One of the scriptures or stories in the Bible that I remember, and I think it helps me, is I remember when Moses died, right? If you know anything about the Bible, Moses sent Joshua and Caleb to the promised land with some other spies, and they came back and was like, yo, we can do it. But so Moses had this closeness, but then with Joshua, and then Moses died. And if you look at the end of the chapter, I think it's Deuteronomy chapter number 30, it says that he gave people time to mourn, but then he came back to Joshua and was like, all right, Moses is dead. like you got to get up, right? Like you can't stay in that pity party, right? Like you got to get up, you got to move. And so I would just encourage people, man, to get up, dust yourself off and keep moving. But in order to do that, you first have to have a positive attitude.
How do you sustain where you're at now? Like, how's that? Like, because I know it's kind of hard once you get to a place. It's kind of hard to sustain that success, especially when you get successful with something. You're always trying to struggle to just keep at that pace, stay at that spot, stay being successful, because it takes time, or it takes work to stay at that point that you've built yourself up to. Because if you don't, then you're going to fall back down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's an excellent question, man. How do you sustain your success, right? How do you sustain your success? One of the things that I've always told people, I do business coaching, right? I coach people who literally have no idea what kind of business they want to do. I coach people who have started their business, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things I always tell people is you have to remember how you got there, right? My dad used to say this when I was little. He would say, you got to dance you have to dance with who brought you to the party, right? Like you can't get to the party and then you see somebody else that looks better and now you want to go dance with them, right? Like if she was enough to bring you to the party, you got to dance with her, right? And what I mean by that is, the hard work that you put in. You know what I mean? Like you got to keep doing it, right? Like a lot of people think, all right, I reached this place of success. I reached this place of, this financial monument or what have you, this financial goal, and then they think it's time to take your foot off the gas, right? But like you said, if you don't do something, eventually you'll go back down the mountain. So I always tell people, you have to remember what got you there, right? You have to remember what got you there. And then not only that, you have to have some people in your circle that will literally hold you accountable, right? When you don't feel like going, when you don't feel like staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning to work on that new idea. Like, you got to do it, right? Like Kobe Bryant is my favorite athlete of all time, and I remember him saying something about his summer workouts. He would say, at the beginning of the summer, I would write out a plan of what I want to get accomplished, and I don't negotiate with myself, right? Like the days I don't want to go lift, the days I don't want to go run, the days I don't want to shoot, right? Like I can't negotiate because I know what I want in the end. And so just having that mindset, of remembering what got you there, and then having those people that's like, nah, bro, you gotta get up, we gotta go, we gotta keep running. You know what I mean? Those are the things I think that will allow you to continue to sustain that level of success, because at the end of the day, what was it? I think Pops on Friday said, if you don't want to catch the dog, you got to worry about the dog catching you, right? Like the person, there's somebody else that want what you have, right? And so in order for them to get it, that means you got to stop. But if you keep going, it makes it that much harder. So that's what I would tell you, man. Just remember what got you there, Never lose sight of that. Don't negotiate with yourself, and remember that somebody else wants to be where you are.
That's good. That's good. I know, like, it's hard keeping that. I think the hardest thing for me is just keeping that mental mindset, because I got the energy, I got the physical energy, but it's just hard keeping that mental grind in my head. It's hard just, and I like that point that you said that you heard from Kobe is like, don't negotiate with yourself. Because there's times I wake up and I'm like, dude, you know, I don't want to start on this video. I don't want to, you know, do this, and it's just like, but like in my head, I'm like, I'll get to it later, but I need to start disciplining myself early, so it's easier for me in the future to be able to be more successful, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, just to add to that, man, one of the things that I've learned is, you know, discipline isn't a light switch, right? Like discipline isn't a light switch. A lot of people, they see success, or they see successful people, and they're like, yo, I want to be where you are, right? And then they'll say, well, how did you get there? And it's like, yo, you got to be disciplined. And then they're like, all right, I'm going to go home and I'm going to be disciplined. And then they're committed for like a day and a half, and then they're back to what they used to do, right? And it's because they think that discipline is just a light switch. You can turn it on and turn it off. But one of the things I tell people when it comes to discipline, discipline is like a muscle, right? Discipline is like a muscle, and that muscle is something that you have to work out, right? Like for instance, if I say I want to lose 30 pounds, and I say I'm gonna, you know, eat one meal a day, and I do that for the first week, and I lose 7 pounds, right? If I just get to a place where after that I jump right back in it and, you know, start back eating 2-3 meals a day, those 7 pounds that I lost are going to turn into like a 15-pound gain, right? So you have to put yourself in a place where you're able to work that muscle, right? Like one of the things I tell people is, if you want to become disciplined, make your bed every morning. Like something that small, like because it's not going to affect anybody but you, right? And so you have to do something that's not going to affect anybody else, but you got to do it because you want to do it, right? And I think when you begin to exercise that level of muscle, that level of discipline, then eventually, like, not making your bed becomes a problem. You know what I mean? And then you have no other choice, but now you built that muscle up. So that's what I would tell people, man. You gotta be disciplined, and discipline is something that you can work at. You know what I mean? You gotta work that muscle of discipline.
That's what I gotta start training it, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's what I have. That's my biggest problem right now.
Yeah.
Is like discipline, just being disciplined.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like, for me, you know, I got a small shirt on today. I'm really not. I'm not. Oh, what you laughing at? That's funny.
No.
So you've been looking at my shirt all day, like,
oh man. This boy wearing the extra small.
Nah, but I used to be a workout fanatic, right?
Yeah.
Like I used to work out literally like every day. You know what I mean? Like a strategic workout where I worked like my arms on Monday, I worked my back on Tuesday, my core on Wednesday. Like it was that defined, right?
Yeah.
And it got to a point where literally, because I had got so disciplined with working out, that if I didn't work out, like I would almost literally feel sick.
Yeah.
Like I would literally feel like nauseous, right? Because I had this adrenaline, I had this energy that I couldn't like let out. And that just developed over that time of, you know, working that muscle. There was days in the beginning I didn't want to go, right? But I forced myself to go. And then after a while, when you start to see the gains, you start to see your arms cut a certain way, you start to see the evidence of working out, then you can begin, then it's easier, right? I'll never say it's easy, but it's easier, to stay at that level of discipline. So, yeah. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Man, that's a good question. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I guess I got to tell my age, right? So, 47, right? Where do I see myself at the age of 47? So it's funny because, I remember early on in life, like I would plan my life out literally by the decades, right? I would be like, yo, by the time I'm 30, I want to do this. By the time I'm 40, I want to do this or whatever. And one of the things that one of my goals I had not too long ago was I wanted to reach an executive level, right, in my career. I wanted to be an executive by the age of 40, right? I wanted to be making six figures by the age of 40. Those were some of my goals. And then what happened was, my grandmother would always say, like, if you just keep working, you'll end up getting where you're trying to get to before you know it. And, luckily for me, like, those two goals, I reached them at the age of 38. You know what I mean? Like, so literally at the age of 38, right, I was an executive. I was on a executive level in my career. And then, I was making six figures, right? So now I've gotten away from 10-year goals and kind of scaled it back to 5-year goals. But my goal was, all right, if I'm making $100,000 minimum at the age of 40, by the time I get to 50, before taxes and all that stuff, that's $1 million, right? So everything that I own, I should be able to pay it off. And then when I hit 50 to 60, I should be able to be at a place in my life where I can just relax, right? But I found out that life, it doesn't happen sometimes the way that we want. Sometimes it happens faster. Sometimes it happens slower. But one of the things that I want to do, and one of my goals within the next 5 years, is I want to really solidify my position as in my I can't even get the word out.
Anthropologist?
Nah, I ain't no damn anthropologist.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know. But philanthropist.
Oh, philanthropist.
Yeah. Man, I can't even talk today. But that was one of my goals in life. I said I want to be a philanthropist, right? I said when it's all said and done, I want my living on earth to make life better for others. So this year I'm getting ready to start my first scholarship, right? My goal is to give 2 scholarships to each high school for male, female going into technology. But then also I want within the next 5 years, man, to literally be in a position where I can pay for somebody's college. Like that's where I want to be. Like all that other stuff is cool, successful career, cars, all that kind of stuff. Like that's cool, but I want to literally, like, in the next 5 years, and I'm not talking about my kids, but I want to find a kid who is deserving, right? Who's super deserving of an opportunity, and literally tell them, listen, as long as you're committed to it, my money's committed to it, because I believe that can change your life and then change generations. So that's where I want to see myself in the next 5 years, literally. Making that level of difference, on a huge scale.
Speaking of like the philanthropy. I can't
That
say
word.
that.
So you gotta be
that
rich
word.
to say that
That
word.
That word. Speaking of that, are there any more, just kind of like piggybacking off that last segment, are there any more goals that in the near future that you would like to be able to provide for people, or like any, like you said, like scholarships, or just anything that you would like to provide or just help give back to the community?
There is. One of the things I definitely want to start as well, I've been in IT for 23 years, I believe it is. And in these 23 years, I'll use a moment of transparency. I worked as a systems administrator, a network engineer. I worked as executive director. Now I serve as the chief technology officer for 3 school districts in the Boston area and several nonprofits, right? But one of the things I've remembered and I've noticed is oftentimes I go into rooms, and these rooms that I go into, I'm the only person of color, right? Like I remember, for instance, I'll never forget it. I went out to Oregon. I was working for a company. I went out to Oregon for an engineering conference, and we looked around, and that whole week, right, I'm there, and the only person of color was myself, right? And it wasn't because I was smarter than anybody else. It wasn't because, I had a family connection that opened up a door for me to be there. I was only there because I had an opportunity, right? I had an opportunity to go to school, get an education in technology, come from the projects, strive for the top, have those 10-year goals, hit some of those goals, and get there. And so my goal now is to literally develop a pathway for 12 to 17-year-old young people as it relates to technology. A program where they can literally come in from the age of 12 to 17 and learn about technology, learn what technology is, learn about different careers in technology, learn about different certifications in technology, learn about different roles in technology. So I think that would be probably one of the things that I would also want to leave as a lasting impression, something that, you know, make it easier for people like me or that look like me to have an opportunity or a segue or a pathway to get to that place. Because, you know, 23 years of doing IT, I think I've done pretty well for myself. So that's another thing that I would definitely want to do outside of the philanthropy. Man, what would be my closing thought or my, you know, parting words, if you will. I hate when people say, "What are your parting words?" Because like parting words mean like you get ready to die or something, right? So, my word, the words that I'll leave with you in this setting would be something like, believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself. No matter what anybody else says, no matter what anybody else says that you can or you can't do, I would tell you to believe in yourself. You have to. Like, it's imperative that you believe in yourself. Like I can't stress how powerful believing in yourself is, right? Because there'll be times where people will believe in you, right? There'll be, you know, family members, your mom, your dad, you know, a coworker, a friend who may believe in you, and they're pushing you to do these amazing things, right? They're pushing you because they believe that what you're doing is amazing. But there comes a time where, like, you have to believe in you. Like, nobody can believe in you for you. Like, you got to believe that, you know what, the sky's the limit for me. I'm not my circumstances. I grew up in Boy Hill Projects, and I remember to this day there was, probably about 16, 17 of us that ran together. And out of that group, you know, only a handful of us graduated high school, right? Some of us, well, not me, but some of us, the guys were getting arrested when we were in elementary school, middle school, right? Some of them never really even made it to high school. And then let alone when you start talking about college, right? Like I was one of the few that even graduated from college. You know, I'm one of a few that, you know, have multiple degrees. But a lot of that is simply because I believed in me, right? I believe that I could do more. I believe that I could achieve more. I believe that no matter what other people may have said about me or thought about me or what statistics said about me or my demographics said about me, like, I believe in myself, and I believe that I deserved every good thing that was coming my way. So that would be my last thought, my thought that I would leave with you is that believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself, and there's no limit to what you can achieve. Cool. Listen, I appreciate the opportunity, man. This was dope. Oh, man. That was good. That was good.
Sir, yes, sir.
That was good.
I can feel a vibe, hustle on the ride. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. All she want is time, all she want is time. Look me in my eyes, call me on my live. Lock the city down till the summertime. Time to slice these niggas up some humble pie.